Thank you so much, everyone. Welcome back to the program. Away from party politics to the issue of policy and governance, especially on the issue of anti-corruption. There are fears in the country, in some quarters, over proposed legislations on the fight against corruption and how it affects the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, the EFCC. Presently, there are two different bills in front of the federal lawmakers on their tables. There are two issues to be considered. The first is the Money Laundering Prevention and Prohibition Bill, SB 642, which basically seeks a new outfit. And the second bill is the Money Laundering Prevention and Prohibition Bill, SB 789. This bill is seeking for the retention of special control units against money in the FCC, SCUML. The two bills are relatively similar, with the major difference being that SB 642 seeks to establish a new institution called the Bureau for Money Laundering Control, while SB 789 seeks to confer legal authority on the already existing Special Control Unit against money laundering, currently being operated as a full-fledged department under the EFCC. Incidentally, the Bureau for Money Laundering Control, the SB 642, is sought to be a corporate body with its own staff and advisory body that will be responsible for the supervision of designated non-financial businesses and professions relating to compliance with the bill and relevant regulations. Now, remember what happened in the case of the NFIU, which is now been taken out of the precincts and the office. It was a standalone department under the EFCC, but is now standing on its own outside of the EFCC. And experts are saying, look, the powers of the EFCC might be whittled down should the first bill allow to stand. So what happens to the fight against corruption? President Muhammadu Buhari's effort in killing corruption, as he said, with some of the proposed bills and efforts. So let's get talking. And that's the reason why tonight we're looking at it from two different angles. First, we have Mr. Daniel Buala, who is also an advisor to the Deputy Senate President. And also, we have Mr. Chile Okoroma, who is the head of the Director, Legal and Prosecution at the EFCC. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for coming.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Is this not convoluted from your, as a lawyer,
right,
and as someone who advises the Deputy Senate President, how does this look for those who have fears that should the second bill stand, taking the SCUML from the EFCC, allowing them to be able to prosecute, then they need to actually go out of their own offices to consult this bureau if it stands? Does it not make things convoluted? Does it make the effort of the EFCC more stringent and more difficult?
Yes, I believe it will make the work of EFCC a little bit difficult. In fact, not a little bit, much more difficult, because already in existence and operation is the Special Control Unit that is domiciled in EFCC as a department. And you know, in all the commands where the EFCC have across the country, in fact, across the 6 geopolitical zones, they have this COM. And they are fully operational, and for the time being, they have been operating successfully. So if you take it out and now put it under a bureau, now apart from the other political consideration, like going against the core component of the wishes of the president, which is to reduce the cost of governance, if you take it out of EFCC, you are reducing the capacity of EFCC to operate optimally. There are people who still hold the belief that the taking away of NFIU from EFCC to CBN has affected to an extent the operation of EFCC, but this is past and behind us. So SB 789 is what we believe will be good in pursuing the anti-corruption fight. That is to say, we believe in the bill that seeks to strengthen and give a legal teeth and effect to the Special Control Unit under the EFCC. Now, if time permits, there are certain backgrounds around the reason why, in fact, in the first place, the National Assembly are thinking about creating a bureau. You know, when you have the joint action, the intergovernmental action against aid of West Africa that created the, like an opinion and recommendation for member states in the West Africa. In Nigeria, there was a synergy of the interagency that considered the evaluation report. And the evaluation report, some of the recommendations that are there are the things that they are looking at scope carrying it out fully. And in fact, they've started implementing a lot of them. So if you take it away from EFCC by reason of creating a new bureau for that purpose, you have to think about establishment, to administration of the place, appointment, remuneration, all these other administrative bottleneck. You are not even talking about whether or not they will function. So in other words, you are thinking of the unknown when you already have in full operation and effectively in EFCC the operation of the control.
I'll come back to you, Mr. Buhari, just in a moment, because for you as an independent person and a lawyer, you're looking at it from the point of law and also from the point of effectiveness. But I'll come back to the issue of effectiveness. Whether or not, if the SCOM comes out of EFCC, maybe they will be more effective. But I know for Mr. Okoroma, you really will come out to speak in public. But I've pleaded that you come and speak about this matter because there is a public hearing tomorrow about this matter. How important is this unit for the EFCC? For Nigerians who are watching right now, can you give us, just in a few seconds, how the strategic role of this unit within the EFCC?
Okay, thank you very much. Over the years, the SCOMO has been within his EFCC with his staffing and people who have been trained to work together with trade and commerce, people from that ministry work together. And there is this seamless arrangement between SCOMO and the enforcement and prosecution unit. So ordinarily, we have a number of times prosecuted cases sent to us by the special control against money laundering. So we have this very good arrangement. Now, some of those, they monitor designated non-financial institutions, the ones that are not complying, they register them, and the ones that are found to violating the law, the provisions of the law, they try to sanction them. If administratively it doesn't work, then they will transmit them to the enforcement department, operations department of EFCC for investigation. We have staff people who are well trained, and they do this investigation. When they do the investigation, transmit to the legal. All of them are all domiciled within EFCC. So for convenience, for effectiveness, efficiency. So it's better if it remains with the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission instead of moving it to another entirely new agency. Now, an infant agency where people, you just have to bring in people who are not, will start going through training and then how to prosecute such matters. We have experienced people in EFCC who have been trained over the years.
Has the EFCC been allowed to participate in the public hearing?
EFCC will be, yes.
Have you made your presentation on your stand on these two bills?
The public hearing will be coming up tomorrow.
I understand that one held today?
Yeah, today. No, the one that I held today was not on that. There are different bills
issues
that were considered. They're going to come up tomorrow, and we're going to make representation and make our position very, very strong and known to those stakeholders and then the National Assembly on why it is very important to domicile SCOMO in EFCC.
Is this a standard practice in some other climes that SCOMO operates independent, or does SCOMO in other climes, if there are relevant or similar agencies, do they operate within the anti-graft agencies in those climes?
Yes, I think so. But most times you discover that there's a fusion of the work of SCOMO and the FIU in other claims, some other claims. But you have these ones, they are bifurcated, they're divided. So in many cases, with other claims, they function together, they function very well, domiciled within law enforcement agencies. And when they were trying to establish the National Financial Intelligence Unit Act, we made that position known to them, that it's better. Yes, there can be hybrid, whether it can be administrated in FIU or law enforcement. They can also have a hybrid where two of them are domiciled together in a law enforcement agency.
How much of work does the EFCC do on money laundering? It looks like maybe one of your biggest role, money laundering, isn't it?
We do so much work on money laundering because there are, of course, you discover that most financial crimes, the end is for financial gain. And then, of course, there's really few cases where monies are not laundered when crimes are committed.
So this SCOMO helps you.
Yes.
This unit is at the spine of your work, isn't it?
Yes, it helps us so much by regulating and even monitoring the activities of DNFIs. And those that are erring, then they will look at them. If they don't comply with their regulations, then they can get across to the enforcement unit, who will now look at them, investigate, and then we'll start prosecution. So it's just SCOMO is very, very central to the work the EFCC is doing. Yeah.
So let me come back to Mr. Bwala. When drafters of laws, when they come together, there are thinkings behind the drafting, the issues that come up in their minds, in the language of the drafting and in the manner in which they draft it. Give us a sense of perhaps what was in the minds of the drafters of this bill to think that there's the need for a bureau for SCOMO outside of the EFCC. Is there something that they're probably thinking? Maybe effectiveness or productivity or what exactly? Or maybe it's redundant under the EFCC?
Most of the times, establishment of agencies stem from political decisions. So, for example, politicians think of solution, but they may not have the firm grips of the operations of the agencies that you are seeking to balkanize, for example. So maybe because of crisis, because of ineffectiveness, or maybe because of money laundering, the prevalence of money laundering, they would think, okay, maybe the solution is for us to create a bureau. But all over the world, whenever you think of legislation, especially in relation to an existing agency, the primary source of information and intelligence should be that agency, because he who wears the shoe, he knows where it pinches. So in this case, SB 642 and SB 789 are substantially the same in wordings and in construction. The marked difference is that one seeks to establish a bureau, one seeks to strengthen SCOMO and leave it within EFCC. So when it comes to drafting, it is fundamentally the same, but in terms of what informed the decision to create the bureau, is more of a political than institutional. And decisions that are institutional last longer than decisions that are politically motivated.
If SCOMO stays outside, as it stands, a lone bureau outside of the EFCC, could it be more effective?
No, it will not be effective, and I will give you my reasons. Number one, you are, apart from the bureaucratic and administrative approach and bottleneck that you're going to go through, the financial burden on the government, you are now going to discuss the issue of appointment of the head. Then it falls within the hand of politicians. Then political motivation and political interest begin to play. That means you are likely to compromise the fundamental work that EFCC is doing, the existing SCOMO within the EFCC. A politician who is under investigation, if he happens to be in the National Assembly, I'm not suggesting, but I'm saying assuming, will think of that. You remember NFIU, the removal of NFIU from EFCC to Central Bank stemmed from the crisis, I remember, in the National Assembly between the agency and some of the politicians under investigation. So when I say certain political decisions have to be carefully looked into, now whoever proposed this bill meant well, but in terms of effectiveness, I believe that if you take SCOM out of EFCC and create it as a bureau, the issue of appointment of officers, the issue of training of officers, you already have trained people. You already have infrastructure in place. You already have intelligence sharing mechanism already in place. You are abandoning that. In other words, let's say you have a world-class stadium, and you now feel that this world-class stadium is designed to look like egg. You prefer the one that looks like a chicken, and you don't want to go and create the one that looks like a chicken. Are you likely going to be more effective? The only time you can think of creating a bureau is where the existence and the operation of SCOMO, for example, within the present framework, is creating a problem, mischief.
One area that, before I come back to Mr. Okoroma, is where do we go from here? Because after, in the process of lawmaking, the public hearing seems to be after the second reading, it goes into public hearing stage. And after the public hearing, it likely to go back to the committee and, you know, they go back to the committee of the whole again. So in this stage, is it too late to make advocacy or to speak about whether or not could it be killed, step down, merge? What can happen at this stage?
This is actually the appropriate time. Usually in public hearing, that is when the National Assembly are calling on the Nigerian people to come and explain the importance, the advantage or the disadvantage of the bill in question. So in the public hearing, when EFCC and other stakeholders in this fight, remember, EFCC is not the only stakeholder in the fight against corruption. The Nigerian people own the fight. Remember, they are talking about even creating of a legislation that will now give protection to whistleblowers. So everybody is a stakeholder in it. So in the public hearing, when you discuss more of the advantage and the disadvantage, the National Assembly can decide. In this case, you only discard one and take the other. No much stress, no much work. You're just taking this one and then adding what EFCC now is suggesting, the mutual evaluation report, which is a combination of effort of the interagency in Nigeria. So when you add that input into the existing SB 789, then you are going to have a very comprehensive bill.
Let me bring back Mr. Okoroma into this conversation. I know just how reluctant you were to come on air. It took a lot of effort to get to, because the Nigerian people need some of this information. And sometimes we bring out some of these seemingly not so popular issues, this kind of bill. A lot of people may not even know until it's passed. But it's very crucial to our anti-corruption. So when we heard about this matter, we wanted to know what is in the thinking of the EFCC. In fact, some of the lawmakers who have reached out to them, maybe after their public hearing, they might come and give us their thinking about this situation. Give us a sense of what the EFCC would like that will make their jobs better. Because evidently, what many Nigerians want is a community or a society that is free of corruption. Corruption has made a mess of our society. What will make your job better in the sense of this bill?
What will make our job better is the strengthening of SCOMO.
Which SB 7889
yes, and it's domiciled in Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, not a standalone agency.
You don't want that?
It will not help in the fight against money laundering. Remember, we prosecute money laundering cases. And some of the offenses that emanate from some of these designated financial institutions, they are predicate offenses for money laundering. So you are taking them away, putting them in a standalone agency. So in other words, when they want to prosecute matters that may be offenses touching on money laundering committed by the designated financial institutions, what are we going to do? We have the apparatus to investigate and to prosecute.
Under one house?
Yes. So it's more convenient for us, and it's better for Nigeria, and it's better for the fight against corruption.
So it slows down your effort if it's taken out?
Yes. And then we also have issue of bureaucratic problems, cooperation between the new agency and the EFCC. And you know what happens in our climate. At times, issue of fighting over turf, rivalry, and all those things, they will just come to play. And cooperation will be a big problem. So it's better if it remains with EFCC and is recognized, because ordinarily it's just an administrative unit set up by an administrative instrument.
Under the Ministry of Trade and Commerce.
Yes. So if you now give it a legal bite or outlook by making a pronouncement in the bill that SCOMO should be domiciled in Economic and Financial Crimes Commission and recognized.
Is there a relationship? The head of SCOMO under the EFCC, who does he or she report to?
The head of SCOMO under the EFCC, we work together with Trade and Commerce. But we have members, people from Trade and Commerce in EFCC working in SCOMO. So report some matters, obviously, to the chairman of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, and then the ones that may require the attention of the minister, reports are made to him. So it's better.
So that's what you want.
Yes, that's our own position.
So, Mr. Buhari, on your final thought, what do you think should be a paramount advocacy tomorrow at the public hearing? Because whatever their positions anybody is presenting tomorrow is advocacy to the lawmakers.
For solidarity's sake, I'm going to be there, because remember, we're stakeholders in this thing. What I think SB 8789 is asking for is the incorporation of SCOMO now as a full-fledged department, so that there is no dependence from, for example, Trade and Commerce. When it is under the full-fledged, when it is a department under the EFCC, then you can hold EFCC accountable if the work is not effective. When you have two people managing it, if it is not effective, you have somebody pointing at the other. Probably we didn't get report here, we didn't get report here. So I'm going to be there tomorrow to show support, because this money laundering, as you can see, even this week, you see all kinds of crime related in the television. Money laundering is just something else in the country. And the only way we can save ourselves is to ensure that that is made strong.
Well, most sincerely, thank you, Mr. Buhari, for coming on. Thank you so much for talking to us about this matter. And Mr. Chile Okoroma, the Director of Legal and Prosecution. He will not talk on TV, but tonight, by some I'm lucky to have gotten you to come and talk about because of the importance of this matter. Thank you so much for coming on tonight.
Thank you very much.
And hopefully we'll get the chairman of the Senate Committee on Anti-Corruption to come and speak about this matter after their public hearing, which we understand that commitment is there. So you can get a sense of what this all means, an anti-corruption war in Nigeria. Thank you so much for being such a wonderful company tonight. Until tomorrow, and I'll see you again. I'm Shewa Kimale. Bye, everyone.